The house on Bellamy Street was too quiet. Not the kind of quiet that follows bedtime or a peaceful morning. This quiet felt hollow, like something had been removed, but no one dared speak about it. Deputy Cole Morgan stood just inside the threshold, boots still wet from the rain, eyes scanning the neatness that made his instincts itch. The coffee table was polished, toys stacked in perfect rows, no dishes in the sink. A picture of a smiling family on the mantel, and one person missing. Clarissa Monroe folded a dish towel in her hands, her voice even, her tone soft. "He left 4 days ago," she said. "Took his car and never came back." Cole nodded slowly but kept his eyes on the little girl sitting on the rug behind her mother, legs crossed, head tilted, crayons scattered around her like a quiet storm. Ava Monroe was 6. Her drawing didn't show a father, a car, or a goodbye. It showed a red figure lying under a floor and a woman with no face holding a shovel. He bent down beside her. "What are you drawing, sweetheart?" She looked up. Her eyes didn't blink much. "That's the monster Mommy made go away." Cole felt it like a gust of cold air through an open window. He stood up and looked at Clarissa again. She smiled, too, practiced, too calm. "Kids," she said, waving her hand. "She's got an imagination." Daniel Monroe, husband, father, accountant, hadn't shown up for work since Monday. His phone was dead. His car hadn't crossed any state lines. There was no bank activity, no hotel check-ins, no receipts. But there was this: a child who whispered about monsters, and a mother who smiled too easily. Cole didn't need more. His Aduda job had taught him to trust silence more than screams. He nodded to himself and stepped back out into the rain, radio in hand. The report would say, "Missing person." But something inside him knew it was more than that. Some children cry when their fathers disappear. Ava just drew pictures of where to find the body. The next morning, the rain was still falling, soft, steady, as if the sky itself refused to forget. Deputy. Cole Morgan parked outside Brookridge Elementary. The playground was wet, the swings motionless. Children were inside, laughing in insulated classrooms. But one little girl sat alone in the guidance office, coloring in silence. Ava Monroe did not look up when Cole entered. Her small hands moved. With quiet purpose, black crayons circling around a red blotch on the page. "Mind if I sit?" Cole asked, easing into the tiny chair beside her. She shrugged. "Okay." Cole glanced at the drawing. A tall figure, stick legs, black hair, a necklace, stood next to a red pool. Across the top, in slanted letters, she had written, "Shh." "Who's that?" he asked gently. "That's Mommy," she said. "She says we don't talk about the red stuff." Cole kept his expression neutral, though something in his chest tightened. A quiet knock. Ms. Evelyn Hart stepped in, Ava's first-grade teacher, and the one who had called him that morning. Her face carried a weariness that went deeper than sleep. "She started drawing things this week," Evelyn said. "Violent things. Always the same 2 colors, red and black." She handed him a folder. Dozens of pages inside. Crude stick figures, basements, shovels. One had what looked like a man under a floor marked with X's. Did she say anything else? She said her dad stopped moving, and her mom told her he's sleeping under the stairs now. Then she asked if shadows can eat people. Cole looked at the child again. Ava was now drawing a staircase. That afternoon, he visited the Monroe residence for a second time. Clarissa answered the door in heels, makeup perfect. The scent of cinnamon and bleach hung in the air. "You again," she said with a faint smile. "Did something happen?" He stepped inside without waiting. "I need to ask a few more questions about Daniel." Clarissa sighed and sat on the edge of the couch. "We argued. He left. I told you." "What was the fight about?" "Money." "What else?" She laughed softly, but her fingers twisted in her lap. "He'd been paranoid for months, said I was hiding things, following him." "Was he?" She looked up, suddenly sharper. "What are you implying?" Cole opened the folder and laid Ava's drawings on the coffee table. Clarissa glanced once, then looked away. "She's a child," she said. "Children don't know what they're seeing. They imagine monsters under the bed." Cole didn't answer. He was watching her eyes, not her words. The next day, he brought in Dr. Naomi Cruz, a forensic child psychologist with years of experience in memory reconstruction. Ava met her with the same quiet stare, the same crayon-stained fingers. In a softly lit therapy room, Ava spoke in fragments. There was a loud thump. Mommy cried. But she had ketchup on her hands. She told me it was just a bad dream. She made me promise not to open the basement. Dr. Cruz took detailed notes, her brow furrowed. Afterward, she met Cole in the hallway. "This isn't fantasy," she said. "The specificity, the consistency, she remembers. But she's been coached to reinterpret it. That's emotional conditioning." That evening, Cole sat in his cruiser and stared at the Monroe house. The porch light was on, curtains drawn. One window still flickered with the blue glow of a television. The pieces were lining up. Too clean a house, too calm a mother, a daughter who spoke in code. Then he pulled up Daniel Monroe's financials. 3 months ago, he had taken out a $500,000 life insurance policy. Beneficiary, Clarissa Monroe. No children listed. A week later, she purchased expensive jewelry from an exclusive boutique downtown. Unexplained withdrawals. A second credit card issued under a Leonard Blake, a name Cole did not recognize. Yet, he called up property records. The house had recently been refinanced. Paperwork showed 2 signatures, Daniel's, and another forged so poorly it almost seemed intentional. Someone wanted money. Someone planned for someone not to come back. The storm rolled in just after midnight. Thunder cracked overhead as Evelyn Hart stood in the hallway of her small house, watching Ava fidget in her sleep. The child had woken crying, not loud, just trembling whispers about the basement and Daddy's footsteps in the dark. Evelyn hesitated, then asked softly, "Do you want to show me?" Ava nodded. No words, just a quiet walk across the room, down the creaky stairs, and out into the storm. Clarissa had left Ava with Evelyn temporarily, under the guise of needing space. But it was Ava who seemed to know the most, and that night she pulled Evelyn's hand as they entered the Monroe house with the spare key, rain soaking their coats, the door groaning like it knew something too. They descended into the basement. It smelled faintly of old paint and bleach. Boxes were stacked too neatly along the far wall. The floor was smooth, too smooth. Ava stopped near the center and pointed to one tile. "Right there," she whispered. "He stopped talking under that one." Evelyn's breath caught. "Are you sure, honey?" Ava nodded. "I hear him sometimes, when Mommy's not home." That same night, Evelyn called Cole Morgan. No hesitation, no waiting till morning. By 3 a.m., the basement was sealed with yellow tape. The warrant came before sunrise. The forensics team worked in silence as Deputy Morgan watched, arms crossed, jaw tight. It was the tile Ava had pointed to. The same one. When lifted, the cavity beneath was shallow. Too shallow to conceal a body, but enough to hold something else. A stained rag. A broken wristwatch. Scratches in the cement. Traces of blood. Faint, but unmistakable. DNA testing confirmed it within 48 hours. Daniel Monroe, and the blood had soaked through more than just the cloth. A corner of Clarissa's wedding veil had been tucked beneath the watch, as if forgotten, or as if someone had kneaded it to muffle a sound. Cole stared at the evidence in disbelief. Ava had known. The file on Leonard Blake was waiting for him back at the station. No priors, but plenty of red flags. Wire transfers from Clarissa's account, a mysterious shared deed on a small cabin 2 hours outside the city, and photos. 1. showed Leonard kissing Clarissa outside a boutique. Another, taken weeks earlier, captured him installing new locks on the cabin's front door. Daniel's name was on none of it. Cole knew what this was: a planned disappearance, an elimination, disguised as abandonment. But there was one final piece: the insurance policy. A payout had already been initiated. Clarissa claimed Daniel had run off, but also filed a presumed dead declaration the week prior, citing emotional distress and estrangement. Too neat, too fast. Dr. Cruz reviewed Ava's recent drawings again. One showed a woman holding a red heart, while a man lay in a gray box below her feet. A second figure, taller, thinner, stood behind her, holding a shovel. The man had a sharp nose and no eyes drawn in. Ava had captioned it, "The one Mommy says I must never tell." That evening, Cole returned to the Monroe house. Clarissa answered in a silk robe, a wineglass in her hand. Calm, dismissive. "You cannot keep harassing me," she said. "This is starting to feel personal." "It is," Cole replied, "because your daughter's the only one telling the truth." She paused. "Just for a second. You're grasping at ghosts. I'm digging them up." When he showed her the evidence, the watch, the blood, the transfer to Leonard Blake, she didn't speak. Her expression didn't crack, but her hands trembled. Slightly. Enough. He arrested her in silence. Clarissa Monroe was folding designer dresses into a suitcase when the knock came. She didn't flinch, just glanced at Leonard Blake as he zipped the second bag, then padded down the hallway in silence. Deputy Cole Morgan stood at the door. No backup, no warrant this time, just a man with too much patience and too many truths in his pocket. Clarissa raised an eyebrow. "Deputy Morgan, again?" He smiled faintly. "Just checking in. You seemed upset during our last visit." She opened the door slowly. Let him step inside. The house smelled like expensive perfume and wood polish. Too clean. Too still. Morgan's eyes scanned the hallway. 2 open suitcases on the floor. Travel documents on the counter. The kind of getaway that spoke more of escape than vacation. "Going somewhere?" he asked. Clarissa poured herself a glass of water. "Is that relevant to your investigation?" Morgan didn't answer. Instead, he took a slow step forward and placed a clear plastic evidence bag on the coffee table. Inside, a child's drawing, crayons, a red figure in a box. A woman standing over it. "She calls it the day Daddy disappeared," Morgan said calmly. Clarissa glanced at it, then sipped her water. "Ava is imaginative. Children make up stories to cope." "Sure," Morgan said. He pulled another item from his coat pocket, a smaller bag this time. A blood-stained rag folded tight. Clarissa's fingers stiffened around the glass. "She drew monsters with red hands for weeks before she showed us this tile," Morgan added. "The one she said Daddy stopped talking beneath." Clarissa turned her back. "I have nothing more to say without legal representation." Morgan nodded slowly, letting silence hang in the room. "Funny thing about silence," he said. "It echoes, especially underground." That was when Leonard entered from the hall. His shirt was untucked. His eyes darted between them. "What's going on?" Clarissa moved toward him. "Deputy Morgan was just leaving." "No," Morgan said. "Actually, I was hoping you'd show up." Leonard swallowed. His mouth opened slightly, then shut. Morgan watched him carefully. "You know what's under the Monroe basement tile, Mr. Blake?" Leonard stiffened. "I've never been in that basement." Morgan tilted his head. "Odd. Ava says you were the one holding the shovel." Clarissa stepped forward. "She's 6, you can't—" "Children remember more than we think," Morgan cut in. "Especially when they're told not to." He dropped another photo on the table. A grainy shot of Leonard loading something into a black SUV. A shovel. A tarp. Taken 3 nights after Daniel went missing, Morgan added. You were sloppy. Leonard. Leonard looked at Clarissa. You said this was handled. It is handled, she snapped. He has nothing. Morgan stayed quiet. He let the silence sharpen its blade. Then, he said softly, we found the cabin. You know, the one you two bought together, with Daniel's name conveniently missing from every paper trail. Clarissa folded her arms. If this is an arrest, do it. If not, not yet, Morgan replied. I like to give people the chance to tell their side first. Leonard sank onto the couch. His hands trembled. She said he was abusive, he muttered, that she was scared. Is that why you helped her fake a disappearance? Morgan asked. Why you scrubbed blood from concrete? Why you lied to Ava and left her wondering if her daddy ever said goodbye? Clarissa's voice sliced through the air. Don't speak another word, Leonard. But Leonard's dam was cracking. His guilt had grown roots. She told me Daniel wouldn't be missed, he said. That he was already spiraling. That the insurance would go through quietly. Clarissa lunged toward him, voice sharp as broken glass. You coward! You said we were in this together! I didn't kill him, Leonard shouted. I just helped clean up. Morgan raised, his voice just enough. Then who did, Leonard? The room froze. Clarissa's eyes were wild now. It was an accident. He pushed me first. He lost control like always. Morgan walked forward slowly, calm, inevitable. Clarissa Monroe, he said. We found Daniel's remains buried near that cabin, wrapped in your wedding veil. And Ava saw you do it. Clarissa's lips parted. No sound came. Leonard stood up, panic pouring from his face. I didn't know he was under the tree. She told me it was just trash. Morgan opened his notepad, flipping to the last page. Ava told her guardian, Mommy said Daddy was sleeping under the white flowers, but not to step on the roots. He paused. There were white lilies planted over the burial site. Clarissa fell to her knees, screaming, not denial, not grief, rage, at the world for catching up, at a man who cracked, at a child who remembered. Morgan stood over her, the badge heavy on his chest. You thought no one would listen to a little girl, he said quietly. But she never stopped talking. Not to us. Not to the ghosts in your basement. Clarissa sobbed. You don't understand what he did to me. Morgan nodded once. Maybe I never will. But I know what you did to Ava. He turned to Leonard. You're both coming in. If there's more to say, now's your chance. Leonard didn't. Resist, Clarissa did. She clawed at the couch, screamed into the carpet, sobbed words no one could understand. But it was too late. The house no longer whispered secrets. It shouted them, loud enough for the world to hear. The sirens arrived like thunder. Blue lights bathed the Monroe house as patrol cars rolled into the driveway. Officers stepped out with calm precision. One glance inside the home told them everything. Clarissa Monroe was curled on the living room floor, still screaming, her voice hoarse and fraying. Leonard Blake stood like a statue near the window, hands raised, tears streaking down his face. Deputy Cole Morgan did not move. He simply pointed to each of them. 2 suspects, both involved in the disappearance and concealment of Daniel Monroe's body. Officers swarmed in. Clarissa fought. Her limbs flailed. He made me do it. Leonard planned everything. I told him no. I told him to stop. Leonard broke down instantly. She said Daniel was dangerous. She said Ava was at risk. Morgan didn't flinch. You both lied. You buried the man, erased him from his daughter's life, and thought no one would notice. But she did. Clarissa was handcuffed and hauled to her feet. She thrashed, mascara running in jagged streaks down her face. You believe a child over me. She doesn't know what she saw. You're throwing away my life over scribbles. Morgan stared at her for a moment, then said quietly, She knew where to dig, and she drew you holding the shovel. Clarissa went still. For the first time, her silence meant surrender. The trial was swift but public, the courtroom filled with cameras, headlines, and the soft murmurs of disbelief. Clarissa Monroe, once a wealthy homemaker known for charity luncheons and social galas, was now the face of betrayal. Leonard Blake, former accountant, part-time yoga instructor, and Clarissa's longtime consultant, became a cautionary tale in misplaced loyalty. Prosecutors built the case with clinical clarity. They showed Ava's drawings, played audio of her describing the cold floor and Mommy's red hands. They read journal entries from Clarissa's phone, bitter paragraphs about Daniel's control over the finances, her growing resentment, her dreams of starting. Over. Leonard's testimony didn't save him. "I only moved the body," he repeated, sobbing. "I thought he was already dead. She said he hit her. She said it was self-defense. But the blood spatter evidence said otherwise. So did Ava's words. She hit him with the fire poker. He didn't get up." Silence followed those words. A silence so full it made jurors lean back in their seats. The verdict came quickly. Clarissa Monroe, guilty on all counts: first-degree murder, obstruction of justice, child endangerment, sentenced to life in prison without parole. Leonard Blake, guilty of accessory after the fact and evidence tampering, sentenced to 25 years in federal prison. Ava didn't attend the sentencing, but her name echoed through every article, every news report. The girl who knew everything. The news played in homes across the country. Wealthy mother sentenced, thanks to daughter's testimony. Child's drawings lead to murder conviction in shocking small-town case. Ava Monroe, the girl who brought the truth into the light. Montages ran, Ava's early sketches, photos of the Monroe family before the disappearance. Courtroom footage of Clarissa's face when the verdict was read, stone cold, then collapsing in on itself. Deputy Morgan appeared in several interviews. She was just a kid, but she saw what no one else did, and she remembered. That's what cracked the case wide open. Ms. Evelyn Hart sat beside Ava during one of the broadcasts. She spoke softly. All Ava wanted was to know what happened to her daddy. No child should carry that kind of truth. But she did. With grace, with pain, with strength I've never seen in an adult, let alone a 6-year-old. Outside the courthouse, protest signs and flowers marked both sides of the emotional spectrum. Some called for deeper investigations into domestic violence. Others condemned Clarissa's manipulation, but most held simple words. Justice for Daniel. Bravery. Has a name? Ava. The final press conference ended with a single photo, Ava holding Ms. Hart's hand. Behind them, the courthouse glowed gold in the late autumn light. She wore a pale yellow dress, a small flower pinned to her braid. She wasn't smiling, but her eyes had changed, no longer searching, just watching, knowing, because now the world knew too. Ava Monroe no longer woke up crying. The nightmares, the ones with shadows in basements and blood on the floor, had grown quieter, softer, like whispers lost in the wind. At her new school, she had her own cubby, her own crayons, and a little desk where she wrote letters to her father. Letters she never sent, but always signed with hearts. Miss Evelyn Hart, now officially her guardian, picked her up every day. No more caseworkers, no more interviews, just warm hugs, a steady hand, and the sound of real safety. "She is not broken," Dr. Naomi Cruz told a local news reporter. "She's healing, because someone listened when she told the truth." One morning in early spring, Deputy Cole Morgan met them at a quiet hill outside of town. The grass was still damp with dew. The sky soft and gray. Ava clutched a bouquet of red roses, Daniel's favorite. They stood in silence at his grave. Morgan took off his hat. Miss Hart wrapped an arm around Ava's shoulder, letting her step forward alone. She knelt, placed the flowers down carefully, one at a time, then leaned in and whispered, I saved you, right? The breeze moved gently through the trees, like an answer. Morgan blinked away, something in his eye. You did more than that, he said quietly. You saved yourself too. Back in town, change had already begun. The Monroe house had been signed over by the county and reimagined by Ms. Hart, with community help, into something new. The Monroe Center for Child Advocacy. A place where no child's story would be dismissed, where drawings would be studied, not dismissed as fantasy, where quiet voices would not be ignored. We couldn't undo the past, Ms. Hart said at the ribbon cutting, but we can rewrite the future. Ava was there, holding the oversized scissors with both hands. She wore her yellow dress again, the one from the courthouse, and this time she smiled. Law enforcement soon followed suit. Deputy Morgan, working with Dr. Cruz and other child psychologists, developed a new approach for early childhood interviews, cross-agency reporting, and trauma-informed investigations. They called it the Ava Protocol. Departments across the state adopted it. Soon, federal interest followed. It wasn't just a policy, it was a promise that even the youngest voices would be heard, that no child would be forced to scream just to be believed. One afternoon, months later, Morgan sat at his desk and pulled. Open a drawer. He took out a single Polaroid, Ava in that same yellow dress, on the courthouse steps, not smiling, just watching. He turned the photo over. There, in Ava's tiny scrawl. Thank you for hearing me. He stared at it for a long time. In a world full of noise, sometimes justice didn't come in the loudest voices. Sometimes it came in whispers. And sometimes it came in crayon. Deputy Morgan looked at her photo again and thought, sometimes the smallest voices bring the loudest justice.